The ACT, or the American College Testing, is a standardized college admissions test used by universities to evaluate high school students. It consists of four main sections: English, math, reading, science, plus an optional writing test. The ACT is conducted and administered by ACT Incorporation, a non-profit organization based in the United States of America. And each section is scored on a scale of 1 to 36. And your final score is the average of all these sections. In this video, we'll be exploring some strategies to attack ACT math questions. 15 questions in 15 minutes, a minute per question. Come, let's explore. Before we plunge deeper into the type of questions and the strategies, let's look at the format of the ACT math test. 45 questions, 50 minutes allotted, 41 scored questions, and 4 are unscored questions. In every standardized test in the United States, conducted by whether it's going to be conducted by College Board or ACT Incorporation, there are a few experimental questions or unscored questions which do not contribute to the overall score. What is the purpose of these questions? As the name suggests, experimental questions. These are thrown to students to understand the difficulty level of the questions so that this could be used for future test takers as the normal scored questions. That is how these testing uh, uh, organizations create a pool of questions, create that question bank. Now, 67 seconds per question, four answer choices, A to D, or it could be indexed from F to I. There is no particular reason why it's indexed like this. And of course, calculator is permitted for all questions. As of now, ACT is administered both digitally and on paper in the United States of America alone. Outside the United States, internationally, it is administered only digitally. You have to pre-book or register for the digital exam of ACT, I'm sorry, if you are an international student. If you are a student of US, then you could either opt for the paper-based exam or the digital exam as of uh, June 2026. There are a permitted list of calculators that you could use, you could take for the ACT test, and the most common ones are the TA84 plus calculators. And of course, there are like prohibited features that you can't have in the calculators, right? Those are all given there. You can also look at the ACT or .org webpage to get more details about the ACT test. Now, focusing on ACT math. What does it test? What does ACT math test? It tests the topics that you had been learning from your middle school to your high school, probably till your grade 10, whatever you had learned. No complex calculus, whatever you learn for your APs, that is not being tested in your ACT. It is very, very similar to SAT, just that a little more extra portions would be there in terms of, for example, matrices, uh, more of trigonometry, more of geometry would be tested in ACT, unlike your SAT. And the time duration for the questions is very, very less in ACT compared to SAT. That is the only difference between SAT and ACT. Otherwise, both are standardized tests used for admissions to undergraduate courses and colleges in the United States and also internationally. Just a preview of what would be tested on the ACT math: pre-algebra or elementary algebra, which includes basic operations, ratio, proportions, factors, absolute values, data collections, and so on. Elementary algebra includes exponents, algebraic operations, and so on. Intermediate algebra, which includes quadratic formula, rational radical expressions, quadratic inequalities, polynomials, roots, matrices. This is one topic that is not tested in SAT but is tested in ACT. Complex numbers, of course, complex numbers is also not tested in SAT but it's tested in ACT. Coordinate geometry, plane geometry, trigonometry. Trigonometry, you don't have graphing trigonometric functions in SAT, but in ACT that is also tested, right? And applying geometry of three dimensions, that is not tested extensively in SAT, but it's tested extensively in ACT. Right? So these are the major differences between SAT math and ACT math. Besides the time duration for each question, 67 questions is the 67 seconds is the time allotted per question, but SAT you could take the liberty of using almost a minute, more than minute and 15 seconds for a question. Now let's look at the topics, topic wise split, right? Each question belong to a certain topic. So we will try to solve it in under a minute. Let's try to solve each question under a minute. How do we proceed with this problem? This is a probability question. So probability question, but the answers are given in dollars. So let's try to understand what this question is asking for. Each time a coin is tossed, it lands face up or face down. The probability of landing face up is four times the probability of landing face down. Now remember that whenever you encounter a word problem like this, don't spend your time reading the entire question. As you read, you make note of the key points in the question. The probability of landing face up, let me call it as P of U, is that would be equal to, convert each statement into a mathematical expression. P of U is equal to 4 times the probability of face down. P of D, let's say that U stands for face up. P of U stands for probability of face up and D stands for face down. 4 times probability of face down. In a game, the player wins $1 when the coin lands face up. For this, $1 is the prize that fellow wins and gains $3 when the coin lands face down. For this, it's $3. What is the expected value of each toss of the coin in this game? Let's try to understand what is the meaning of expectation. Expectation is sigma x times p of x. That is the value times the probability of that value and the sum of all the probabilities. Right? So this would mean that that could be like x1 times p of x1, x2 times p of x2, x3 times p of x3, and so on. Where the x's would denote the dollars here, the amount that the person is going to win. That would be the x here. And p of x would be the value for the uh, probability of that quantity, the number that the person is going to win. Right? If the player wins, for example, a face up, then he would get a $1, right? If he wins, if he gets a face down, he wins $3 and so on. So it's 1 times that probability plus 3 times that probability and so on. First, we need to find out what is the probability of U and probability of D, because the entire probability or entire events consists of face ups and face downs. That would be the entire set of events in this case. It says that probability of U is equal to 4 times probability of D, but we already know that total probability is always equal to 1. So this would mean some P of U plus 4 times P of D, if you look at it, that is always equal to 1, right? When you say that it's P of U plus P of D is equal to 1, P of U plus P of D, these are the only two events that we have that is equal to 1. So you have 4 times P of D plus P of D is equal to 1. So I would have 5 P of D is equal to 1, or P of D is equal to 1 over 5. I could take it as 0.2 or leave it as 1 over 5. This would mean that my P of U is equal to 4 times P of D, that is 4/5, right? This is your 0.8. So I have now P of D and a P of U. Now I just need to know what is the expectation here. So this says that $1 when the coin lands face up and $3 when the coin lands face down. So it's 1 times zero point 0.2 plus 3 times zero point 0.8. So the answer would be zero point 0.2 plus 2.4, which would be 2.6. Right? Face down is, I'm sorry, face up is, it's the other way around. I'm very sorry. It says that it's $1 when it's face up. Face up is zero point 0.8. So let me erase this. So zero point 0.8 times 1 plus zero point 0.2 times, it's $3 for face down. So zero point 0.8 plus zero point 0.6, which is $1.40. This is the right answer. Answer is option B. This is the exact answer. That is the expected answer for this probability question. Here, so just to recall, what I have done here is I've used the fact that the total probability is equal to 1. There are only two events that are happening. It's like your heads or tails, right? Probability of heads plus probability of tails should always be equal to 1. Instead of saying heads or tails, you have something called as face up and face down. So P of U plus P of D is equal to 1. This is your first equation. And there is a relationship between P of U and your P of D. P of U is 4 times P of D. I've used that in this equation. P of U plus P of D is equal to 1. I've got 5 times P of D is equal to 1. P of D is zero point 0.2. So P of U eventually becomes zero point 0.8. Now E of x is nothing but sigma x times P of x. That's a formula for expectation. So that would be zero point 0.8. That is, for the probability of face up is zero point 0.8 and the amount for the prize money is $1. So 1 times zero point 0.8 plus the prize money is $3 when the coin is face down. That is your zero point 0.2 probability, zero point 0.2 times 3. So the total expected value or the total value or the expected value here would be $1.40 here. So, as you all know, for the ACT math test, you will not be given a formula sheet at all. So, it's important to know the concepts and also revise the formula wherever is required. Right? Memorize the formula. Wherever it's required, you might have to memorize the formula. Right. Next one. Given that f of x is cube root of 4x plus 2, which of the following expressions is the inverse function f inverse of x? So, what exactly are we trying to do here? Finding out the inverse of a function. There is a normal routine method to find out the inverse, but I'll also teach you a non-routine method, which is what you might have to apply or which is more time saving than your routine method. So let me call this as method 1, which is your routine method, and the method 2, which is a time saver. You will be able to bank on the time, save all the time when you apply some strategies in method 2. Method 1 is the routine method. So how do you find out the inverse of a function? You would normally swap the x and y, right? Step 1 would be swapping the x and y. Would make it as x is equal to cube root of 4y plus 2 and write y in terms of x. So x cube is equal to 4y plus 2 cube root of 4y plus 2 the whole cube. This would just give me 4y plus 2 is equal to x cube. Now subtract 2, isolate y. So this is what I get. So I would have, this would mean f inverse of x is nothing but x cube minus 2 over 4. So this would be your option C. This is your routine way of solving it. A non-routine method would be, very easy method would be, just plug in values and check for the options. So let's say that x is equal to 1. F of 1 is going to give me cube root of, this would be 4 plus 2, which is equal to cube root of 6. Right? This is what I get for f of 1. So this would mean that f inverse of cube root of 6 should be equal to 1. Option A, just substitute x is equal to cube root of 6 implies 1 over cube root of 4 times cube root of 6 plus 2 obviously is not equal to 1. So this option is ruled out. Option B is when you substitute x is equal to cube root of 6. Cube root of 6 minus 2 over 4 again not equal to 1. This is also ruled out. Option C would be cube root of 6 the whole cube minus 2 over 4, which is 6 minus 2 over 4, which is equal to 1. This is the right option. Option D also ruled out 4 times cube root of 6 plus 2 the whole cube. This is also not the right answer. So the right answer is option C. This is actually much easier to solve if you do not know the routine method of finding out the inverse functions. Just substitute some numbers and find out the inverse. Right? Easy way of solving it. Another strategy that you can use. Clear? We'll move on. This is the plugging in number strategy that I've used. I've used cube root of 6. I know that f of 1 is cube root of 6. This would mean that f inverse of cube root of 6 should give you back 1. So that is what I'm trying to figure out. Out of these options A, B, C, D, which one is going to give you 1 when you replace your x with your cube root of 6. Third type is a matrix question. Now, matrix questions, as I told you, matrices are not tested in SAT, but they are tested in ACT. So, how do we approach matrix? So, these are all just basic matrix questions where you could have questions on multiplying matrices, adding matrices, subtracting matrices, or like this, where you have a word problem which you might have to convert into a matrix and arrive at the answer. A party supply store sells two types of jumbo popcorn bags, salty and sweet. The numbers of bags sold on Thursday and Friday last week are given in the matrix. The selling price per bag and the profit per bag are given in the matrix B. Price and profit are in dollars. So there is one matrix, the other matrix is B. So it says that matrix A, the selling price per bag. This gives you the selling price per bag. So, for example, 14 bags, it says that the selling price per bag, profit per bag are given in matrix B. So, matrix B is going to give you the selling price and the profit. What is matrix A giving? The number of bags. Matrix A is giving you the number of bags. So, this would mean that 14 salty bags, 26 sweet bags were sold on Thursday, 20 salty bags, and 24 sweet bags were sold on Friday. That is what is the information given by A, and option matrix B is going to give you the selling price and the profit. Now the question is asking, what is the total profit for the sale of the two types of popcorn sold on Thursday and Friday? Overall profit is what is asked here, which means that you are going to be more bothered about this column in the matrix B, right? So this is your profit. Profit, it says that profit per bag. But you know the number of bags sold on Thursday, number of bags sold on Friday, number of salty bags, number of sweetie bags. You can say that the total number of salty bags is that you need to pick from matrix A. That would be 14 plus 20. That is 14 on Thursday and 20 on Friday. 14 plus 20, that would be equal to 34. And then you have total number of sweet bags, both Thursday and Friday combined would be 26 plus 24, which is equal to 50 bags. So 34 bags were salty bags, and 50 were sweet bags sold on Thursday and Friday. And the profit per salty bag is 2.25. Therefore, total profit on salty bags would be 34 times dollars 2.25. That when you do the math, because calculators are allowed in ACT math, you could just use your calculator and arrive at this answer. Similarly, you have total profit on sweet bags. If you look at it, that would be 50 times dollars 1.75, which is equal to dollar 87.50. Doing the math is much easier because your calculators are permitted in ACT. So the question is asking about the total profit. That will be the sum of these two, which will be 76.50 plus 87.50. That would be 164.00. This would be the final answer, and this has to be options. Here, just review this once. The question is just asking for the total profit, which means that you are not bothered about the selling price, you are bothered only about the profit. That is why you are looking only at the second column in matrix B. And if you look at it, the total profit means the profit of selling salty and sweets on Thursday and Friday in total. Here, yeah. Next one is on circle geometry, very important topic in ACT. The figure shows triangle LMN is a right angle isosceles triangle. It is a right angle triangle because angle in a semicircle here, you can see that LN is the diameter and then LMN, arc LMN is a semicircle. This is very, very clear from the figure itself because LN passes through O, LN is a diameter, right? So triangle LMN is an isosceles right triangle. It has to be right angled at M because that is the angle in the semicircle, right? So this is a circle theorem that you are using here. Now, inscribe the circle with center O and radius is 12 centimeters. So ON is 12 centimeters. OM is also 12 centimeters. This region is your radius 12 centimeters. This is also 12 centimeters. This much information is given here. What is the length in centimeters of arc MN shown as a thick curve? So what is this length is a question, right? Now if you look at it, you can see that equal chords cut equal arcs. This is another circle theorem that you should be aware of. So this would mean that measure of arc MN is same as measure of arc LM, right? So you could see that measure of arc MN, if you look at it, this MN again, if you look at it, since it's the whole thing is 180 degrees, this has to be equal to 90 degrees, right? Measure of arc MN is one half of measure of arc LMN, I would say. This would be equal to 90 degrees. Measure of arc MN is 90 degrees, which is same as your pi over 2 radians. Because the answer is given in terms of pi, I am converting this 90 degrees to radians. Now arc length, what is the formula for arc length? Length of arc MN would be equal to length of R is nothing but L is equal to R times theta, which is 12 times pi over 2, which is equal to 6 pi radians. Arc length is 6 pi radians. So our arc length is 6 pi centimeters and so on. If the angle is in radians, so our length of the arc is measured in centimeters as per the question. So it has to be 6 pi. Yeah. All I have used here is two theorems. One is equal chords cut equal arcs. The other one that I have used here is angle in a semicircle is the right angle. Though that is not used to solve the problem, but that's some information that is given in the question because the right angle isosceles triangle. Here. So major one that I've used here is the fact that it's an isosceles triangle. Therefore, you can see that OM is perpendicular because it is equal arc on both the sides, equal arc subtend equal angles at the center. Therefore, angle NOM is 90 degrees. Equal chords cut equal arcs, and therefore you have this. The whole arc is 180 degrees because it's a semicircle. Measure of arc LMN is equal to 180 degrees because it's a semicircle. Semicircular arc's measure is 180 degrees. Clear? Right. Next is a very simple one to do with arithmetic numbers. The sum of three positive integers is 360 and the ratio of the integers is 5 is to 3 is to 2. Very simple. You take it as 5x plus 3x plus 2x is equal to 360. So this would give me, this would be a 10x is equal to 360 or x is equal to 36. Now the question is asking value of the smallest of the integers, smallest is 2x, 2 times x which is equal to 72. The smallest of the integers is 72. If you want, you can verify 72 plus 3 times 36 is 108 plus 5 times 36 is 180. So this total would give me 180 plus 180 which is equal to 360. That is what you have here. Got it? This is like hardly a few seconds you will take to solve this problem. So which means that the remaining seconds you can always bank on the time and use it for other questions. Next one. In the right triangle below, 0 less than b less than a, one of the angle measures in the triangle is tan inverse of a over b. This means that some theta is given as tan inverse of a over b, right? This would mean that tan theta is equal to a over b. If you look at this, let me call this as a, b, c. So if it's a over b, tan theta is equal to AC over BC, which means this has to be theta, right? Only if this is theta, according to Socrates, sine is opposite side over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent side over hypotenuse, tan is opposite side over adjacent side. For theta, the opposite side is A and the adjacent side is B. Therefore, tan theta would be A over B. Right? So, which means that the angle that they have mentioned here would be this angle, angle B. Tan theta is A over B. The question is asking what is cos of tan inverse of A over B is same as asking cos of theta, because you know that theta has to be tan inverse of A over B, which is equal to, according to this Socrates, CAH. Cosine is adjacent side over hypotenuse. What is adjacent side here? B over square root of A square plus B square. The answer has to be option D. Got it? Very simple application of your Socrates. But what you need to do here is identify what is that theta for which theta is tan inverse of A over B. Once you identify that, it's a very simple problem. Clear? Let's move on. The real solution of the equation 5 e power x is equal to 25, very simple one. I would divide by 5 throughout. So 25 over 5 which is equal to 5. E power x is equal to 5. Take ln on either side. You would have ln of e power x is equal to ln 5. So this would mean that x is equal to ln 5. That's all his answer. So this ln 5 is actually a real solution. Therefore the answer has to be option. Very simple. As I told you, there could be questions which can be solved within a few seconds. There could be questions which could take around like 1 minute or little more than a minute. So learn to bank on the time. You have a lot of time left in this question. Use that for other questions. Next one is probability and primes. 13 marbles labeled 1 through 30 were each put into a jar. One marble will be drawn randomly from the jar. What is the probability that this marble will have a prime number written on it? So 1 through 30, what are the prime numbers? 1 is neither prime nor composite. Unfortunately, you might have to list all the prime numbers. Not more than 30 numbers will be tested here. So if you are a person who is like very clear on what prime numbers are and you know the number of prime numbers within 1 to 30, then obviously immediately you can get the answer. Otherwise, list it down. Not a problem, because the earlier question you saw that it took only a few seconds. So that seconds that you had allotted for that question you can use for this question. A little more than a few seconds you might have, because you're going to list down all the primes to count the number of primes here. 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 is a prime number, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 is a prime number. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 primes are there. So probability is equal to 10 out of 30. So this would be equal to one third. So the probability of having a prime number is one third out of the 20 prime numbers. Again, if you had looked at it, I had not taken more than at least, let's say, 30 seconds or so to list down the prime numbers and arrive at the probability value. All you need to know here is what are prime numbers. That's all. Here, let me go on. Now look at it. Given that 2 is less than or equal to A less than or equal to B, some information is given here. What is the greatest possible value for A over B times 1 over C? Let's understand what this question is asking for. Greatest possible value. So A by B times 1 over C is less than or equal to what? That is the question. You might have to understand, identify what is this? What is this question mark? Right? So it's less than or equal to something. This is the greatest possible value for A over B times 1 over C. Now, you know that A is less than or equal to 5. You have an information that 3 is less than or equal to B less than or equal to 7. When I take the reciprocal of this, 1 over 3 less than or equal to 1 over B less than or equal to 1 over 7. When you take the reciprocal, the inequality would reverse. That is exactly what is happening here from this. Similarly, if you have 9 less than or equal to C less than or equal to 12, when I take the reciprocal, I would have 1 over 12 less than or equal to 1 over C less than or equal to 1 over 9. Remember that multiplying by a negative number or reciprocating it will always change the inequality in the case of numbers. Understood? Either you multiply by a negative number or you take the reciprocal. Either way, the inequality would reverse. So I have 1 over b less than or equal to 1 over 3, 1 over c less than or equal to 1 over 9. This is inequality 1, inequality 2, inequality 3. I'm just going to multiply the three inequalities times 3. When I multiply that, a times 1 over b times 1 over c is less than or equal to 5 times 1 over 3 times 1 over 9. So this is nothing but a over b times 1 over c is less than or equal to 5 over 27. So the greatest value question mark is actually option D, which is your 5 over 27. Clear? All these are positive numbers. Remember that either when you multiply by a negative number or when you take the reciprocal, in either case the inequality would reverse. That is how we have arrived at these inequalities here. Now all three are positive numbers. A is less than or equal to 5, 1 over B is less than or equal to 1 over 3. Directly you can multiply the left hand side, that's less than or equal to the same inequality will get preserved when you multiply because nothing is changing here, you're just multiplying it as it is. Three constants on the left side, three constants on the right side, you're multiplying it, inequality will not change. Clear? So the greatest possible value here is 5 over 27. Okay. Next one is on rates. Rates is a very, very common question in ACT. Almost all these types of questions that I'm discussing so far are all common in ACT test. You will have at least one or two questions on each of these types in your ACT test. Right. It took Daniel X minutes to cycle the D miles from home to work. As I've been telling you, whenever you encounter a word problem, don't read the full question. You will be wasting your time. As and when you read the question, convert that into a mathematical statement. So, in a way that you can comprehend it, you can either draw a diagram, draw a table, or formulate an equation. Whatever you are comfortable with, you can do it. It took Daniel X minutes to cycle the D miles from home to work. Home to work, this fellow is cycling in this direction. Let's say from home to work. X minutes, D miles are covered. So the moment you have time and distance, then immediately you should be thinking of speed. Speed is nothing but distance over time. What is that ratio that relates distance and time? That's a speed. So x over d, how I will say distance over time. So this has to be d over x, this is the speed at which this fellow is traveling, miles per minute, right? So this is the speed of Daniel's speed, I would say. The rate at which Daniel would travel would be d over x miles per minute. Returning home on the same route. So from work, he goes back home now on the same route, which means that he travels the same d miles. Now, he takes y minutes, right? On the way home, her average speed is. Now, what is the speed here? Speed here would be, in this case, would be, it is d miles, d over y miles per minute. Now that is also taken care of. Third part of the question, on the way home, her average speed was, on the way home, the average speed would be, in this case would be your d over y, was 3 times her average speed on the way to work was d over x. So you have a relationship now, d over y is equal to 3 times d over x. Which of the following gives equation gives y in terms of x? Very simple, just cancel it off. X is equal to 3y, or I would have y is equal to x over 3, right? Very, very simple way of doing it. Another easy way here is, you can see that the time and speed are inversely proportional to each other. They are inversely proportional to each other. So one increases, time would definitely decrease. So speed is 3 times, so the time is 1/3. Very simple, assuming distance is a constant. Easy way of solving the problem and very quick way of understanding the problem, right? Speed is inversely proportional to time. As speed increases, time decreases, assuming the distance is a constant. Of course, distance is a constant in this case. Therefore, Daniel's speed is increased thrice, hence his time would be reduced by 1/3. Clear? It's multiplied by 3 times, so it is 1/3 the time, original time. Another way of analyzing this problem. Otherwise, if you want to do it the formula, again, this will not take much time. It will take hardly a few seconds, or maximum, let's say 60 seconds for you to solve it if you are able to do it this way, formula. Whatever method you are comfortable with, of course, you can do it, because nobody is going to test on what method you have used to solve the problem, right? They are more, the examiners are more bothered about the answer rather than the way that you are able to answer. On the real number line, how many integers are between negative 50 over 3 and 85 over 4? This is a calculator question. You can't attempt it without a calculator, because it will be very difficult for you to understand where these numbers will stand on the number line. Definitely you'll have a zero somewhere here, but I do not know where these numbers are going to stand. So negative 50 over 3 would be approximately negative 16.67, let's say. So the nearest integer would be negative 16, because question is asking about integers here. So negative 16 is the nearest integer here. 85 over 4, if you look at it, this would be 21.25. So the nearest integer here is 21. So between negative 60 and 21, how many integers are there? There are 16 here and 21 here. Total number of integers is 37. 16 plus 21, 37 integers are there between negative 50 over 3 and 85 over 4 on the number line. Very simple question, provided you understand where, what are integers, and where do these negative 16, or what is the nearest integer from different negative 50 over 3 and 85 over 4, and arrive at the number of integers in that interval. Here, during a certain experiment, two events x and y can each occur. Events x and y are mutually exclusive. So, what do you mean by mutually exclusive? Which of the following probabilities must be zero? Mutually exclusive events means they don't have anything in common. Suppose you have A and B here. A intersection B would be a null set. Then they are mutually exclusive events. Very, very important in probability theory. So, when you have mutually exclusive events, you should know this rule in probability. P of A union B, or in this case, let's say that it's X union Y. Let me replace everything with the X and a Y. X union Y. So let's say this is your X and this is your Y, right? They don't have anything in common. So X intersection Y is a null set. Such events are said to be mutually exclusive events. So this is your P addition theory of probability says that minus P of x intersection y. This would be P of x plus P of y minus 0, which is your P of x plus P of y. P of x union y. So whenever you have mutually exclusive events, which probability must be 0? P of x intersection y or P of x and y. So and stands for intersection, stands for multiplication in probability terms, or stands for union, stands for plus in probability terms. So these are analogies to probability in math. Yeah, you could say, suppose you say P of x or y, this would mean P of x union y. Remember that. 13th one, volume and surface area. Dana has a cylindrical barrel that has an inside diameter of 12 inches and contains water. So that is a cylindrical barrel. As always, as I've been telling you, draw the diagram or you draw a table, whatever you are comfortable with to understand the diagram better. That has an inside diameter of 12 centimeters, 12 inches, I'm sorry. 12 inches is given here, which means the radius is 6 inches, right? And it contains water. When she put marbles in the barrel, the water level rose by, so this has got some water, right? This barrel has got some water here. Now he says that, so let's say that the water is up to a height of h inches, right? Now, when she put barrels in the marble, the water level rose by 3 inches. So there are like barrels, marbles in this. Marbles are put in this barrel. When the marbles are put, what happens here is the marbles that be like water displaced. So the water level rises by 3 inches. This is what is given here. So once the marbles are put, the water level rises. Now, what is the volume of the marbles in Q? Remember that a simple Archimedes principle, since you will be writing your science test also along with this ACT, you should be aware of this Archimedes principle or the principle of buoyancy. When you have a container and you have this with some liquid, you place some solid inside that liquid, the amount of water displaced is equal to the volume of solid. This is a very, very famous principle called as Archimedes principle or the principle of buoyancy. So what is the volume of marbles? Volume of marbles, according to this principle, volume of marbles, I do not know how many marbles, but I'm not bothered about that. Volume of marbles is equal to the volume of water displaced. So what is the volume of water displaced? It's same as the amount at which rose. That would be same as your pi times 6 squared times height is 3 inches. That is the amount that has been displaced in the sense that is the amount that's rising. Right? So this would be the volume of marbles. This has to be 36 times 3, which is your 108 pi. That's all is the answer here. So the answer has to be 108 pi. This is a very simple application of Archimedes principle. That's all. Nothing more than that. A tourism organization randomly selected 100 tourists finishing their summaries visit to Spain. Obviously, you will have a data based question or a data interpretation question. Very simple data interpretation question that could involve statistics as well, or it could involve some kind of graphs. Right? This one is a very, very simple statistical question. The organization asked them how many cities they had toured in the city. The table shows the results. Based on these data, for the population of tourists that visited Spain during the summer, what is the best estimate of the mean number of cities toured? So the question is asking about the mean. And when you have the number of cities, number of tourists, what do you mean by this? One city has got 10 tourists, two cities have got 40 tourists. So 40, 40. Then three cities have got 50 tourists. So you have 50, 50, 50. So the mean would be equal to the sum of observations plus 40 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50 divided by the number of observations, number of um, tourists here is there are like 100 tourists here. So totally 100 tourists are here. So this would be 40, 80, 90, 150. This has to be 100 plus 50 is 150. This is 160, 200, 240. 240 divided by 100. The answer is 2.4. Either you can do it like this or just multiply this. 1 times 10 plus 2 times 40 plus 3 times 50 by the total number of observations, which is your 100 to receive. That is same as this one. Here, you get the same answer. Relook at this video. I'm sure you will understand each of the questions better. Very simple questions. The way that you solve it is what matters the most. And for that, you should know all the concepts related to this particular ACT test really well. And you also need to know all the formula that are associated with it, because reference sheet of formula will not be provided to you in ACT. Next one would be imaginary and complex numbers. This is one topic that is not tested in SAT, but it is tested in ACT. Given that I is an imaginary unit, so what is I? I, if you're familiar with complex numbers, is nothing but square root of -1. That is what is referred to as I. Which of the following numbers is equal to 5 plus 3i the whole square? This is like related to identity. If you're familiar with a plus b the whole square, which is equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. As I told you, what topics are tested? The topics would be from your middle school, probably your grade 8 till your grade 10, whatever you have learned, that is what is tested in your ACT or even in your SAT, right? So SAT is much simpler because you don't have matrices, you don't have complex numbers. There are few topics that are like not tested in SAT compared to ACT. Now here identities are part of your algebra course, so you should be knowing these identities. So this would be a plus b the whole square would be 5 square plus 2 times 5 times 3i plus 3i the whole square. That would give me a 25 plus 30i minus 9, because 3 times I square, 3 square times I square is -1. You can see that I is square root of -1, I square is -1. This has to be 16 plus 30i. This has to be option D. Yeah. So with this, we come to the end of this ACT short duration, right? 15 questions in under 15 minutes. That is what we had aimed at. Because I was also explaining it, it took a little longer time. But I'm sure that when you look at this way the questions are solved, you know how easy it is to crack your ACT. All the best, guys. Thanks for joining. Comment, like, and subscribe this. Thank you.